Welcome back guys. In this video I'll be showing you how to use XeSS version 2 Upscaler in Resident Evil 2, 3, 4, 7 and 8. These games come with a custom version of FSR Upscaler that produces some noticeable texture shimmering in the environment, also a blurry looking image. I've already shown the process for Resident Evil 4, but in that guide I used XeSS version 1.1. In this guide I'll be using version 2. Update the guide. I'll be testing these games on my Rog Ally that comes with an AMD based GPU Radeon 780M. In order to achieve this, I'll be using Reframework mod by Rog. You can download it for free from GitHub. I'll give the link to this website in the description of the video and just click on dev release here. Scroll down until you find the Reframework builds corresponding to the game like RE2, RE3, RE4, RE7, RE8. You just need to click on the download icon next to these builds in order to download them. Need to have a free GitHub account in order to download any stuff from here. To make things easier for you, I'll just create an archive file that contains all of these Reframework builds. We'll give the direct download link to this archive file in the description of the video. Then you need to download Upscaler based plugin by PureDark from Nexus Mods website. It's free. Just need to have a free Nexus Mods account in order to download any stuff from here. Click on files here. You need to download version 1.1.2 of Upscaler based plugin. Do not download its latest version, that is 1.2. 1.1.2. Click on manual download here. And then click on slow download. Upscaler based plugin will enable the temporal upscaler setting in Reframework. Now I need to download XeSS SDK version 2.0.1 from GitHub. Again, I'll give its link in the description of the video. Scroll down until you find the asset section, expand it, click on the .zip link here. I'll kick things off with Resident Evil 4 remake. First install Reframework, open re4.zip file. Again open re4.zip file. Just need to copy this DLL file, dinput 8 and this folder Reframework. Copy. Need to paste them in the game's install directory. Select the game in your Steam library, right click, manage, click on browse local files. Paste them here. Now just open Reframework folder. Create a new folder here. Name it as plugins. Now I'll be installing Upscaler based plugin. Open its archive file. Open Upscaler based plugin folder. Copy this DLL file. I'll show you where to paste it. Open Resident Evil 4's install directory. Open Reframework folder. Open plugins folder. Paste the DLL file here. Now I'll install XeSS Upscaler. Open XeSS SDK archive file. Open bin folder. Here look for a DLL file name libxeSS. There it is. Copy it. Open the game's install directory. Open Reframework folder. Open plugins folder. Paste the DLL file here. That's it, we are done. Adrenaline settings for the game, pre-sync, VSync and anti-lag settings enabled. On Rog Ally you can even enable AFMF to AMD's driver level implementation of frame generation, completely up to you. For this game I've set the UMA buffer size to 7 GB. My Ally is running on BIOS version 341. I have installed AMD's GPU driver, Adrenaline Edition version 25.3.1. That's why I have access to AFMF 2.1. Using a 27 watts manual profile, all three power values set at 27 watts. CPU boost disabled. I'll set the resolution to 720p. I'll try to highlight the difference in image quality between in-game FSR Upscaler and XeSS 2 Upscaler. Connected my 8-bit to Ultimate 2C controller to LIY 2.4 GHz wireless mode. Launch the game. When you launch the game with Reframework installed, its menu will get initialized. There it is. Just expand temporal upscaler section. Here make sure this box is checked, enabled. You can see its settings now. First we have use native res DLAA setting. This basically enables XeSS anti-aliasing, disables XeSS upscaling. I have disabled it. Sharpness setting did not work for me. I'll just leave it as 0. Upscaler XeSS quality level can be changed from here. Now I would not recommend using the lower quality levels of XeSS Upscaler like balance, performance and ultra performance. They will make the UI elements look more blurry. Upscale and jitter settings enabled. Allow engine TA setting disabled. Stick with the default settings here. I'll show you the blurry UI. See, the UI here is flickering as well. I'll just disable temporal upscaler. Now the UI is rendered properly. This is a problem with Reframework and temporal upscaler. In-game settings, 720p resolution. I have set the preset to prioritize graphics. Desync off, cinematic resolution full HD. You need to make sure FSR2 and FSR1 upscalers are disabled. Very important. They can conflict with Reframework temporal upscaler. Image quality 100%, rendering mode normal. Don't set it to interlace, set it to normal. Disable anti-aliasing when using temporal upscaler. I'll disable some post-processing effects as well, like bloom. Screen space reflection can cause some graphical artifacts in brightly lit areas, extending the outlines of our character. So I have disabled it. Motion blur disabled. Lens flare disabled. Lens distortion disabled. Depth of field disabled. Yeah, that's it. Use adrenaline software to show you the performance metrics. We are in. This is the game running without any upscaling. Look at the trees in the background, the branches, they are looking pixelated as expected. FPS here is close to 45. Okay, first I'll just enable in-game FSR upscaler. FSR2 set to quality. Back to the game. Yeah, the image quality is looking a bit soft now compared to when the game was running without any upscaling. Some texture shimmering is still present. FPS here is around 48 when using aim downsides. Now I'll switch to XeSS to upscaler. You need to disable the in-game FSR setting first, off. Open Mod menu, pressing the insert key. Check this box, enable. Settings. Quality preset of XeSS. Now observe the branches of the trees. The texture shimmering effect is almost gone. Image quality of XeSS is looking sharper than that of FSR, but the HUD element here is exhibiting some flickering. FPS is close to 48. Very good results produced by XeSS upscaler. On Rog Ally, you can even enable AFMF. Fences in this game won't exhibit texture shimmering effect now. I'll quickly enable AFMF. Open the game's adrenaline settings by pressing the Alt and R keys together. Enable AFMF from here. Check its status should be active. Search mode set to high. This prevents frame generation smoothing effect from getting disabled during fast visual motion. Performance mode set to quality. VSync off. FreeSync on. Back to the game. Yeah, FPS increased to around 76. Oh my god, the horde is after me. Can observe the added amount of smoothness. Input delay is not a problem. Frame generation lag value 18 milliseconds, and this is the game running on prioritized graphics preset on Rog Ally. This is amazing. 80 FPS. Now I'll test the next game, Resident Evil 2. First I'll install Reframework. Open re2.zip file. Again open re2.zip file. Copy the input 8.tll file and Reframework folder. Need to paste them in the game's installed directory. Select Resident Evil 2 in your Steam library. Right click, manage. Click on browse local files. Paste them here. Open Reframework folder. Create a new folder here. Name it as plugins. It's the same process for every Resident Evil game. Now I'll install Upscaler base plugin. Just open its archive file. Open Upscaler base plugin folder. Copy this DLL file. Open the game's install directory. Open Reframework folder. Open plugins folder. Paste the DLL file here. Now I'll install XeSS Upscaler. Open XeSS SDK zip file. Open bin folder. Copy this DLL file libxeSS. Open the game's install directory. Reframework folder. Plugins folder. Paste the DLL file here. That's it. I'll just set the resolution to 900p. Adrenaline settings for Resident Evil 2. FreeSync, VSync and anti-lag settings enabled. Reframework is getting initialized. Temporal upscaler setting got unlocked. See, disable it for the time being. First I'll show you the in-game settings. Graphics settings, display mode full screen, 900p resolution, ray tracing off, rendering mode, set it to normal, don't set it to interlace, image quality 100%, in-game upscaler disabled, uncap the FPS, VSync off, anti-aliasing disable, very important, don't set it to TA. I'm using the high settings, texture quality 3 GB. Yes, screen space reflections produce some artifacts in this game around the character models in brightly lit areas. Outline was extending, so I have disabled this setting. Post-processing effects like bloom, lens flare, motion blur, depth of field, lens distortion, film noise disabled. Open Reframework's menu by pressing the insert keyboard key. Text is a bit small here as I've set the resolution to 900p. Temporal upscaler setting enabled. Sharpness slider did not work again. Upscaler set to XeSS using its quality preset. Upscale and jitter settings enabled. Allow engine TA setting disabled. Default settings here. Leave them as they are. We are in. There's Leon. Just check out the image quality here. It's looking so sharp and we are getting close to 80 FPS. Game is very nicely optimized. Your HUD is flickering even in this game. Happens in every Resident Evil game when using Reframeworks. Temporal upscaler. Same thing for the crosshair. I'll just switch to native anti-aliasing. Just check this option. Use native res. Back to the game. Yeah, FPS dropped to around 53. Not a big improvement in terms of image quality. Better to just use the upscaler, is entirely up to you. Go back to upscaling. Uncheck this setting. Use native resolution. Dark area. Blasted its head off. Now I'll test the next game. Not observing any texture shimmering in the environment. Show you the setup process for Resident Evil 3. First I'll be installing Reframework. Open re3.zip file. Open re3.zip file again. Copy Reframework folder and de-input 8.dll file. Need to paste them in the game's install directory. Select the game in your Steam library, right click, manage, click on browse local files, paste them here. Open Reframework folder. Create a new folder here. Name it as plugins. Now I'll be installing Upscaler based plugin. Open its archive file. Open Upscaler base plugin folder. Copy this DLL file. Open the game's install directory. Open Reframework folder. Open plugins folder. Paste the DLL file here. Now I'll be installing XeSS Upscaler. Open XeSS SDK archive file. Open bin folder. Copy this DLL file, lib XeSS. Open the games install directory. Open Reframework folder. Open plugins folder. Paste the DLL file here. That's it. Adrenaline settings for the game. Free sync, anti-lag and vsync settings enabled. Upon game launch, Reframework will get initialized. There it is. Temporal upscaler setting disabled for the time being so that the UI elements do not flicker. Graphics setting, display mode set to full screen, 900p resolution, ray tracing off. Rendering mode, set it to normal, don't set it to interlace. Image quality 100%. Reality FXCS plus upscaling disabled. FSR version 1 disabled. Uncapped FPS, vsync off. Disable anti-aliasing as well. Do not set it to TAA. High settings, texture quality set to 3GB. I can handle it. Again disable screen space reflections. I'll disable post-processing effects like bloom, lens flare, motion blur, depth of field, lens distortion. Here you go. Open Reframework menu by pressing the insert keyboard key. Enable temporal upscaler. Sharpness slider did not work again. Upscaler set to XeSS using its quality preset. Upscale jitter settings enabled. Allow engine TA setting disabled. Default settings here. We are in. There's chill. And just shoot this barrel, it will explode. Oh my god. Burned and dead. FPS here is close to 75. Look at the image quality. Stunning visuals. Just observe this fence not producing that texture shimmering effect. Fine textures. XeSS Upscaler is doing an amazing job in this game. Another fence. The mesh texture. Yeah, these Resident Evil games consume a lot of VRAM, 6.7 GB, but I am using the high settings as well. Understandable. Minor flickering of the HUD, see. Very disappointing that Resident Evil games don't support upscalers like XeSS and DLSS. It's a garbage implementation of FSR upscaler, not even FSR 3 upscaler. Now I'll test the next game. Resident Evil 7. First I'll install Reframework. Open re7.zip file. Again open re7.zip file. Copy Reframework folder and the input 8.dll file. Need to paste them in the game's install directory. Select the game in your Steam library, right click, manage, click on browse local files, paste them here. Open Reframework folder, create a new folder here, name it as plugins. Now I'll install Upscaler based plugin. Open its archive file. Open Upscaler based plugin folder, copy this DLL file. Open the game's install directory. Open Reframework folder. Open plugins folder. Paste the DLL file here. Now I'll install XeSS Upscaler. Open the archive file of XeSS SDK. Open bin folder. Copy this DLL file, lib XeSS. Open the game's install directory. Open Reframework folder. Open plugins folder. Paste the DLL file here. That's it. Adrenaline settings for Resident Evil 7. FreeSync, VSync and anti-lag settings enabled. Reframework got initialized. Temporal upscaler setting disabled for the timing so that the UI elements don't flicker. In-game settings, 900p resolution, ray tracing off. If your GPU can handle ray tracing, you can enable the setting. Full screen display mode. No FPS cap applied. VSync off. Rendering mode, very important, set it to normal, don't set it to interlace. Resolution scaling 1, do not enable any in-game upscaler. FSR 1 disabled. I have set most of the settings to very high. In this game we cannot disable anti-aliasing, just don't set it to TA. It can make the image quality look a bit blurry. I'll just set it to FXA. Post-processing effects like motion blur, depth of field disabled, bloom and lens flare disabled as well, reflections off, chromatic aberration disabled as well. Open Reframework menu by pressing the insert keyboard key. Enable temporal upscaler setting from here. Again I am using XeSS Upscaler's quality preset. Upscale and jitter settings enable, allow engine TA setting disabled. Sliders left to default. Yeah, this game is played from a first person perspective. HUD is flickering again, see, but the image quality is looking so sharp. This is amazing. FPS is close to 100. Can't believe this. I'm hearing some weird noises. Monster is lurking around the corners. I know it's here somewhere. Okay, this door is locked. There's the monster. Just try already. Oh my god, this thing is not going down. Use my knife. Swinging wildly. Killed it. Another one popped up. Now I'll test the next game. Resident Evil Village. First I'll install Reframework. Open re8.zip file. Again open re8.zip file. Copy Reframework folder and deinput 8.tll file. Need to paste them in the game's installed directory. Select the game in your Steam library, right click, manage, click on browse local files. Paste them here. Open Reframework folder. Create a new folder here and name it as plugins. Now I'll install Upscaler based plugin. Open its archive file. Open Upscaler based plugin folder. Copy this TLL file. Open the game's installed directory. Open Reframework folder. Open plugins folder. Paste the file here. Now I'll install XeSS Upscaler. Open the archive file of XeSS SDK. Open bin folder. Copy this TLL file libxeSS. Open the game's installed directory. Open Reframework folder. Open plugins folder. Paste the DLL file here. That's it. Adrenaline settings for the game. FreeSync, VSync and anti-lag settings enabled. Reframework got initialized. Expand temporal upscaler. Disable it for the time being. In-game settings, I'm basically using a custom prioritized graphics preset. Display mode full screen 900p resolution, no FPS cap applied, VSync disabled, in-game upscaler disabled. Very important. Rendering mode set to normal, do not set it to interlace. Image quality set to 1. Fidelity FXCS off. Anti-aliasing cannot be disabled in this game, so I'll just set it to TA. Can't select, only FXA. Variable rate shading should be disabled. High settings, texture quality set to 2 GB. Ray tracing off. If your GPU can handle it, enable the setting. Screen space reflections off. I'll disable post-processing effects like bloom, lens flare, film noise, depth of field, lens distortion. That's it. Open Reframework menu by pressing the insert keyboard key. Enable temporal upscaler from here. Sharpness slider again did not work. Using the upscaler's quality preset. Upscale jitter settings on. Allow engine TA settings off. Sliders set to default. Yeah, we are in. Even this game is played from a first person perspective. Image quality is looking so sharp. Stunning visuals. Just check out this scenery. No texture shimmering produced around the branches of the tree. Okay, head element is flickering, see. Even the crosshair is flickering. Reframework's temporal upscaler does an amazing job of improving the game's image quality compared to the in-game upscaler. It's a shame that it produces some flickering of the HUD elements. Obtained a crystal skull. Some creatures are hiding in the tall grass. There they are. Game runs very nicely on Rog Ally. Very high VRAM usage again. That's it with the video guys. I hope you find it useful. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.